Nebraska's 2025 class wrapped up on Wednesday after early signing day, so it's time to turn the page to the class of 2026. In today's video, I'm going to go over the top 10 prospects that Nebraska is going after in that class. I'm going to introduce you to them. Who are they? What do they bring to the table? What their interest is in the Huskers, and everything else in between. So we have a jam-packed recruiting video for you guys today. Top 10 prospects that I want you to remember. So make sure to hit that like button if you're fired up. And really quick, you're new to the channel or returning viewer, make sure to subscribe. I post daily Nebraska football content and Husker recruiting content that you'll get nowhere else on YouTube. So if you're a diehard fan, make sure to subscribe. You'll be thanking yourself that you did. But without further ado, let's get into it. Going over my big board for the class of 2026 Nebraska football recruiting, the top 10 players that the Huskers are after and the guys that I want the most. So once again, these 10 players are guys that Nebraska has a legit chance at. Very, very good prospects. Let's get into it with number 10. We'll go down the list. The 10th player I want the most all the way to the most coveted player in this class. First things first, everybody always calls for the trenches. Let's start it off with Mr. Hudson Parliament coming out of the state of South Dakota. We've talked about this guy a little bit in the past. I love Hudson Parliament. I think this guy is a super underrated prospect. 4-star according to Rivals.com. I think, by the time we talk about him in the summer and next fall, he will be a consensus 4-star, maybe even a top 200 guy. Hudson Parliament is a straight dog. 6'4". He's about 300 pounds now. Some pretty decent offers on his offer list, a lot of Midwestern offers, but he was visiting Alabama a couple weekends ago. I told you guys in the fall that some SEC schools would start to get involved. They have. Hudson Parliament's a big-time prospect that Nebraska has a good chance at landing. Again, Iowa, I would rank number 1 there, but Nebraska's number 2. He's visited multiple times. This guy can play tackle, guard, defensive line, whatever you need him to do. Love Hudson Parliament, and I like where Nebraska stands here early on, but we got to get things started with the trenches. Hudson Parliament, that's a guy you're going to want to remember coming out of the great state of South Dakota. Let's keep it regional. Nebraska likes recruiting regional. Let's go to another neighboring state here. Not South Dakota. Let's go to Iowa with number 9 here, Jaden McGregory. Now, Nebraska is the odds-on favorite to get Mr. Jaden McGregory. Of course, you look at the rankings. Top 200 player, number 1 player in Iowa. This guy plays safety, 6'2", 180. Again, schools like Iowa State in the mix here, Kansas State, Minnesota, some pretty decent offers. Jaden McGregory just picked up an offer from Georgia, and he went on a visit to Georgia about a week ago. This guy's blowing up as well, but, Nebraska really impressed him early on in this process. Again, you see a Tennessee offer here, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin. So Jaden McGregory is a very good talent, a guy who can play all over the defense, safety, nickel corner, athletic freak. But really like where Nebraska stands, but he's blowing up. You got to lock him down pretty quickly, but really like Jaden McGregory as a prospect. Let's get to number 8 here. Hey, let's keep it Midwest. Why not? Let's not break the curse. Maybe some people actually want to consider this a Midwestern state. Let's go to Missouri for number 8. This is Mr. Keenan Harris, 4-star safety / linebacker that Nebraska is recruiting. 6'1", 200 pounds. Ideally, I want him to play linebacker for Nebraska because he's an athletic freak. That's the first thing that you see on film. He made a huge one-handed snag earlier this season, but I think Keenan Harris is a really good prospect. I expect Nebraska to land him. Feel pretty confident about this. But this is a guy who is very versatile, can play all over the field, safety, linebacker. I like him at linebacker. So really like Keenan Harris coming out of that St. Louis area. We have a lot of Missouri kids on this list. Just get ready. He is a very, very solid prospect. Nebraska is the odds-on favorite here. Again, you look at the offer list. Oklahoma's involved. Tennessee's involved. But Keenan Harris, athletic freak, fits this defense, and I expect us to make a move here and get him. But he's number 8, and we've been talking about him for a little while as well. Let's go to number 7 on this list. We'll keep it with the defense. This time, let's go up to the secondary once again. A true boundary corner, a guy who can play man-to-man against any wide receiver in the country. This is Chasden Smith, coming out of the Tennessee area, coming out of Knoxville, listed at 6'1", 150. He recently came on a visit for the Wisconsin game, and he said before that Wisconsin game that Nebraska really wasn't on his top 10. That he was simply giving Nebraska an opportunity, liked Matt Rhule, liked the coaching staff. He said after that Wisconsin game, yeah, Nebraska's on that top 10. They might be in the top 5 as of right now. So he was really impressed by his visit to Nebraska. I like Chasten Smith a lot. Again, he's 6'1". He's lanky. He's fast. He fits this defense to a T. He's a guy who can, again, is a true man-to-man corner. You see schools like Kentucky, Tennessee, Clemson in the mix here, Ole Miss, but Nebraska really has to make a push here for Chasten Smith because I think he's a good prospect, and really really like his future, and I like that he had a good visit. So Chasten Smith at number 7. Let's go to the state of Montana for number 6. A guy who I like to refer to as Carter Nelson 2.0. This is Matt Ludwig, 6'4", 230 pounds, out of Billings, Montana. Arguably one of the best prospects to come out of that state ever. And Nebraska is a huge favorite to land this guy. Again, top 300 prospect. This guy literally is Carter Nelson 2.0. You watch this guy in film, he plays every position. Wide receiver, running back, tight end. He's being recruited to play tight end for Nebraska. Really like him, his versatility. Good kid, as you would expect. So I love Matt Ludwig. I love where Nebraska stands. The only school I'm watching out for is Michigan. He has a phenomenal offer list, though. Alabama has offered him. Georgia's offered him. So Matt Ludwig, really, really good talent. I'm excited about this guy. I think Nebraska lands him. It's been kind of a quiet recruiting process for him. He visited for the Northern Iowa game. Really haven't heard too much since. But like where Nebraska stands with Matt Ludwig a lot. This is a guy you're going to want to remember. Really going to want to remember him. He's at that tight end spot. Carter Nelson 2.0. All right, we're in the top 10. Let's get to a guy who is Chase Young 2.0. And you can see it with the hair. Titan Davis is coming out of the St. Louis area, DeSmet High School, edge rusher. And oh my goodness, is this guy a freak of nature. 6'4", 250 pounds, great offer list. Consensus 4-star. Some people have him as a top 100 guy. I think I do. Great pass rusher, athletic freak. Those are the things that come to my mind when describing a guy like Titan Davis. He visited Nebraska early on this season a couple times. Nebraska's really high on his list on 3, puts us in the betting favorite here. I don't know how I'm feeling about that, but I know it's going to be a long, winding recruiting process, and a guy like Titan Davis, guys like him don't come around every once in a while. He's a really good prospect, great pass rusher, athletic freak, and a guy who has legit upside. Nebraska really needs to build a hole in that St. Louis area. They're trying their best. You could make a big dent by getting a guy like Titan Davis at that D-line spot. So, man, some really, really good prospects. Let's go back to the offensive line, though. Let's go to a Polynesian player, Mr. Malachi Lee. So Malachi Lee came in for the Wisconsin game recently, had a very, very good time. He said a couple things about that Wisconsin game. Number one, he loved the fans. He said Nebraska has the best fans of any place he's been to. He said that he loves that Nebraska is a very historical program. He said that he witnessed history. He's very proud to be there when Nebraska made a bowl game. And he said that he overall had a really good experience. Malachi Lee is coming as a guy coming out of Honolulu, Hawaii, 6'7", 310 pounds. And he also said that he loved that Nebraska is building a Polynesian connection. He said that Donnie Raiola is doing a good job recruiting him, so I really like Malachi Lee. He's a good pass pro type of offensive tackle, super physical. These Polynesian players are different. I told you guys about these guys in the past. Love me some Polynesian linemen. Get me as many as possible. And I think we have a really good shot with Malachi Lee. Michigan favorite here. Georgia's in the mix. Alabama gave him an offer. USC. So watch out for those schools. But we make a good initial impression with Malachi Lee. Top 3 here, folks. Let's get to a running back. St. Louis, we're back in that area right here with the Zevin Walker. This guy is an absolute stud. Top 100 running back in the country. I'd say Nebraska's the odds-on favorite here. I know they have Kansas. But again, top 100, 5'10", 180 pounds. One thing I like about Zevin Walker, his speed is phenomenal. You watch that on film. But he also has the ability to lower his shoulder a little bit, to be physical, to be an every down type of back. He's great in the pass pro. He's great catching the football as well. Super shifty. Got a little bit of an Emmett Johnson to him where he can juke out basically anybody in this planet. So love the Zevin Walker. He's visited multiple times. He's number 1 of the running backs that I want. Nebraska's going after some good running backs, man. There's Brian Bonner, who's another top 100 running back coming out of California who barely missed this list. But I like this Zevin Walker the most. That's why he earns number 3. Let's get to number 2 here. Hunter Higgins. This guy is 3-star prospect according to On3. I don't think he should be a 3-star prospect. I think this guy should be a 4-star defensive lineman. Again, 6'5", 240 pounds. I love Hunter Higgins. I think this guy's an absolute stud. He leads, or he led the state of Kansas in sacks earlier this season. He can play all over the defensive line, D tackle, nose tackle, edge rusher. He can do a little bit of everything. An athletic freak is what I would use to describe. Just a really good pass rusher. Just a hard-nosed, good kid, good family, and a guy who will land with Nebraska. I feel very confident about this. Well, if I could put in a crystal ball, I would. Hunter Higgins to Nebraska. Love this guy, and I think he's going to commit. He's number 2. Excited for him to join this class. It looks like he will, but he's a 4-star prospect in my book. He should be. Watch this guy in film. He's an absolute stud. Great pass rusher. He gets number 2. All right. If you follow Nebraska 2026 recruiting, you guys should probably know who's next. My number 1, the most coveted prospect that Nebraska is going after in this class, the number 1 player in this class, Jackson Cantwell out of guess where? St. Louis. This guy is incredible. I shouldn't say St. Louis. Out of Nixon, Missouri. It's Missouri. It's the Missouri state. So not St. Louis, but he's out of Missouri. But this guy, absolute freak. 6'8", 300 pounds. Every offer you can imagine in America. Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, Oklahoma, Missouri, wherever you want. This guy has that offer. And he is the number 1 player in the class of 2026. We talked about David Sanders in the class of 2025, how good he is. This guy's better, and he's a year younger. Jackson Cantwell, he can do just about everything. Good kid, plays offensive tackle, plays guard. He's one of the best shot putters in America. He has an Olympic family background. His mom is a Nebraska legend coming out of Creighton, Nebraska. She was an Olympian. His dad was an Olympian. So great genetics, has a Nebraska connection, grew up around the program. He said in the past that he really believes that Matt Rhule is bringing this place in the right direction. He's took multiple visits. As of right now, I think Nebraska is a top 3 school in this recruiting process, along with Georgia, Bama. Missouri's probably in there too. But this is a guy who we'll be talking about extensively. All spring long, all summer long. I don't know when he commits, but Jackson Cantwell know the name. This is my number 1. It's everybody's number 1 because he is the number 1 player in Nebraska, and we're in the mix here. Let's get serious. All right, guys. Those are the top 10 players that Nebraska is after in this class, my big board. So let me know down below. Who do you guys want the most out of all 10? What's the player you want the most? Maybe besides Jackson Cantwell. Jackson Cantwell is number 1, obviously. Besides him, who do you want the most? Let me know in the comment section. We love you, Jackson. This guy is an absolute stud. But let me know your thoughts down below. Hey, if you made this far in the video, shout out to you. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.